Welcome to another edition of In the Box. I'm Coach Q. I got Paul Bell. We've been talking a lot about marriages over the last few weeks, and we're going to take a detour. I guess we'll probably get to marriage sometime later on down the road. We'll see. But we're going to talk about some things that we've been studying recently, or just talk about world events. Let's go that route. World events. We know that Israel and the Middle East. I should say there's a lot of turmoil and commotion going on in the Middle East. Israel was attacked almost a year ago and they responded. And do you think, from your opinion, Paul, that Israel was justified? And when this, I guess, this deals with, I guess you could call it politics or whatever if you want to. We normally don't talk about politics, but just knowing that Israel is God's chosen people, do you think that they responded appropriately?
Well, I think that any human that's if you slap them, the first initial thing is to slap them back. But I think that too, being children of God, I think that we are supposed to look at it differently. But then in this arena of politics, if you prove weak, it's almost like putting in is it I forget their names, but if that man would let him, if that man would let Putin push on him, he would have dominated him, and that man standing his ground. And so I would say that in that arena, it's kind of hard to answer that if it's right for them to fight back. Yes, they're children of God, uh, but if they would have did absolutely nothing, what would that say to the other country? That, hey, we can just pump on them, and we're just going to go take what they got. That's how I look at it.
I look at it like what happened to us on 9/11 and us being America. We didn't withhold anything. We said, you know, we're coming to end you. And I think Israel's doing the same thing. And I don't see anything wrong with their approach and how they're handling the situation. I just know that knowing that this country, this nation has flourished so much in only what 50, 60 years, 70 years. That's amazing as to how much that they have grown. So they must have some kind of blessing on them, supernatural blessing. That's the way I look at it. So
Yeah,
I don't see anything wrong with the way they're approaching the situation because they're going by the same means that we would have done it by. That's the way I look at it.
okay.
Um, Now, do we know the outcome of the situation? Like right now, today, can we fully say that tomorrow that they will be um, winners in a situation? No, I don't know that we can. I think eventually down the road they will, of course, because that's what biblical prophecy tells us is that they will win. But how they come about it or how it goes about it, that's something that's up for debate.
I think that are there really any winners? Because one, we're supposed to be of peace, and why are wars happening? You got people want to take something that's not theirs. I remember that Satan offered Jesus land that was already his. That was stuff was already his. You know, I think that we're in a time now where people are getting greedy, and they figure if they're the bigger bank, they're gonna take the little bank. And so they figure, hey, my military militia is bigger than yours. Let's go get them. And sometimes the little man gets a little feisty. He says, no, you can't just take my stuff. I was watching this clip about Urkel when he's so much in love with Laura, right? And so this big old gang and this guy came. And he wanted to talk to Laura. And he kept looking at the guy. He's like, no, you're not taking Laura. Urkel was a little bit of a small guy. And this guy was a big guy. So the guy kept messing with him. So he picked Urkel up, set him to the side, said, Urkel said, no, you're not. So he slapped the dude's arm. And so then the dude got mad. So then the guy picked him up again, threw him in front of this big old bodyguard. So then Urkel said, oh, I wish it didn't have to return to this violence. But now you turned on the fist of fury. And so he did his little Bruce Lee moves and stuff like that. So I just said that even though he was little in heart, he was big in spirit. And so even though it looked like he was surrounded by a lot of people, he wasn't going to win. He was defending his Laura. So yeah, and you got to ask yourself, what's it to you to defend something that you care about? Are you gonna let somebody just come in? The Bible says when the thief comes in, he's gonna bind the who? The strong man. So if he comes in, who's the first line of attack? He's gonna come for you, Quill. And then he's gonna take everything else because he know you the first line of defense. So you got these little countries saying, "No, man, I love my country. We want our freedom," because Putin's coming in to take away their freedom. And think about it, Trump's coming away to take away our freedom. If I'm hearing that book correctly, and and she's probably not know much better. I'm not a politician. I really don't care, but because I mean I know it's gonna be a lot of flack. I don't care. Again, it's not my problem because I have to adjust to whatever it is. I mean, it's not making my money no better. That's how I know my money's not gonna get no better. The cost of living ain't gonna get no better. Things are still gonna shoot up. So where am I winning? That's just my thought. Where am I gonna win? I haven't won since Clinton. They make all these promises. They put who they put in there, and our vote counts. I keep on hearing, well, got so many black people that if black people are seeing what they're seeing right now, and they did, they would roll over in their grave. They didn't die just for that. They died for us to have an opportunity to be great and rest in our greatness. It didn't get us to be fighting against each other and making excuses and not being held accountable for what we cannot do. But again, we got to take what we love the most. If we love our freedom, that means we go and strive to make that better each day. It seems like it's trying to be taken away by not making excuses. Martin Luther King didn't make an excuse for why he wanted freedom. Rosa Parks didn't make excuses. She didn't say the white man didn't do this, they didn't do that. All the Arabs are making all the money. The Mexicans came. No, they didn't make all these excuses. They fought for what they knew. They fought for equality and they fought for freedom and justice. Now, shame on us to sit up here and throw that mud in their face, and we only want to pick and choose like we do the Bible what they count for. And we have, and I ain't gonna say what we have to do with society, but society does not have enough history education to understand truly what they went for. Because voting, okay, they did that, but at the same time, we have to look at big bank take little bank. There's one time I seen where one of the Bush boys lost to John Kerry, and he lost fairly. They had so much money that they made them recount Florida's tickets, and guess who turned out to win? It wasn't John Kerry no more. So you tell me, where's your count? Where's your vote count? Because if they can manipulate that system to fit their agenda, Hillary Clinton won that battle years ago. But because society didn't want a woman in there, they made it to where it fit that. She clearly won. You saw it too. She won in every area. But because they don't, most men and socialists ain't going to want to listen to no woman. She has a higher power? Absolutely not. You going to let your wife run the house? Absolutely not.
I think you went into something that was, you went into politics.
Well, I don't like politics, but I just call it what it is because so many people bash me for not voting, and I just state my view. And I get tired of people saying things of what our ancestors did. But if that's the case, what are we doing to follow up? We just living off what they did, their coattails. When I was taught that my kids can't live off my faith, they got to get their own. So, and when Jesus said it is finished, it was finished for him. But what are we to do? We can't just keep on living on something years and years ago. We got to start making a mark for ourselves. Be held accountable. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, no. You're good. So, dealing with this whole political front, Jesus also said, render to Caesar what is Caesar, right? Render to God what is God. How do we separate government responsibility from our spiritual responsibility? I guess that's a better question for us today. Is that even possible, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, because, again, how? Because if we're paying and they see, it's a supply and demand thing. If they see if they can raise it higher and will keep us low, they're forcing us to decide what we're going to do. And they put you in a headlock. Well, if you don't pay these taxes, we're going to take your house. I can't afford you, man. I'm barely making it. Or they raise the gas taxes. We got to pay it, they know that we have no option but to pay it. I think that's not, to me, that's not biblical. It says submission to authority, but how can we, now we have this place of a Daniel situation. They say bow, do we bow? Because every law that they making us mentally say, is it our God or is it us that they're going to obey? So yeah, I gotta pay my taxes. I gotta pay the income taxes or the tax rate. But is it fair? Because in one sense, I think Nehemiah said, "Why are you charging your people such high taxes? Why are you charging them? What are these?" Because if you think about it, you know, if the taxes are for the police and stuff, and the still crime is heavy, you got all this technology that shows you after the fact that crime is being produced. Why does it take so much then than now? Meaning, why do you get all the information when you got it right there before you see who's doing the crime, but you're waiting till the crime is started, right? It is just like with the 10-point coalition and the police. They're only there after the crime when you should be there before the crime. I met with the police there. I said, well, look, you know where the drug infested areas are. Why don't you post? Well, I can't tell people where to park their cars for their lunch. Well, they park at Subway. Just buy them some Subway and make them park right there in the crime-infested areas. So in the politicians' realm, they say, well, look, I can just only imagine them being in the room. Well, we need this much to go up, but is there anyone saying, well, the people don't have this much to go up? They're already struggling, scratching to pay school care, daycare. They barely having food to eat. You got to live 10 people to a home. And then if you make more money, who's to tell us how much taxes was not enough on your income taxes? Who's to say, well, if you work this much, we're taking that much more. But then it was time to give me my money back. Well, I overpaid. That's so crazy, Quill. People don't even understand it. Educate my kids. I said, when you get your taxes back, that's money that they say you overpaid. You're excited about buying a car and TV with your money that you pretty much gave them in escrow. And so then therefore you have to take into account that when now you owe, who's to delegate how much is too much and how much is not enough? Who made that law? Because you're going to tax me on my money if I get a raise. What's a raise? Now I'm only making 50 cents and you getting my 75 cents. I'm only getting a quarter. Let me say this. I'm only getting a quarter out of my 75 cents that you gave me as a raise. And then who's to say how much is a raise? I mean, because if a job is going off the cost of living, they say, well, man, it's rough out here. I need to, especially if I'm a productive and fruitful company, such as AutoZone, O'Reilly's, and they only want to pay you this amount of money that does not equal out to what your bills equal out to be. I get it. We make our bills, but who's to say we're supposed to work to pay bills? We're supposed to live, right? And so then now you get where you mess with your tithing, and now it's like, oh no, do I tithe the church because the church is crooked, or do I? Then you got the pastor, you pay your tithes, or you're not going to get what you're promised. Gee, you gotta wonder, who's telling me right? So back to your question, pay season, we're banning it. What more turnip juice do you want? And what less can I get? I can't get nothing.
Seems like I opened up a can of worms for you, man. You got
no,
really emotional on this.
Yeah, it brings tears to my eyes, man. That that you sit back and you watch all these laws that are being passed, and you got these politicians that come in and make these promises, and they don't never come to our church, but they want to come to church when it's time to vote. That's not right. You don't care nothing. You really don't care nothing about what we're dealing with, because if you did, we have more children getting education versus highways being built, patches in the road. You're cutting teachers to educate our children. Why? Because if our children are educated, that keeps us less in the hole. I mean, it keeps us more in the hole of keeping people ignorant to what their rights are and what their possibilities are. Their dreams are cut short because It said this here that for in the prisons are being built rapidly, especially when they notice that children aren't making it out the third day because they're dependent on the streets now. And like I say here, what I saw here, I've seen when I go out in the community, I've seen an older set of kids teaching a younger guy. He can't be no more than 12 or 13. This is facts. I've seen it with my own eyes. He's out there gambling, selling drugs, walk around with a fistful of money like that. Young boy brought tears to my eyes, man. Tears to my eyes. There's no, and then we mess up programs because we don't support the programs. And then we wonder why, well, you can't blame the church. The church is opening up for you, but you don't bring it because you think it's full of corruption. Not every church is full of corruption. Some churches do genuinely care. But does the government care? I would say no, because why are you cutting salaries for teachers? Those are gateways to our children learning. It doesn't. I mean, yes, I don't agree with them teaching on homosexual stuff. That's because when I grew up, you had to have permission slip from my mama. Said, no, he's not looking at sexual education this real. You cannot tell my child that you can't tell me that I gotta allow my child to look at the difference of genders. Absolutely not. She know what she is. He know what he is. He better know by the time he get home. You're a boy, you stay a boy. You're a girl, you stay a girl. That's what it is. Ain't no confusion about that. And so then, therefore, we go on this tangent to where, society says our children are going to be what they want it to be. Absolutely not. The government is molding us to fit their agenda. We have to fit God's agenda. And we cannot bow down to every trumpet. We cannot bow down to every law that they make, because where does God come into play? Because that weakens our faith, Quill. Because we don't see God moving, it seems like the government more is powerful. It seems like he's more powerful, but God is still reigning. And it's by our faith that things will begin. They say, well, why God moves in this area, but he won't move in this area? Because it's already set what's going down. But he wants us, until time comes, he wants us to ready ourselves in the steadfast faith that while we're going through this season, where are we in our faith? Are we going to fall for this government? Because what they don't know is they can't override God's design. They got this power for this. They had power back then, right? But then we've seen them all come to a fall when they go against our Father in heaven.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like I said, ooh boy, you got into something. You was on a whole nother level.
I'm unapologetically not sorry. I don't care what somebody got to say. You can come and chew me up, spit me out. I'm still gonna stand on my truth, and I know God to be my God. And what's right is right, is wrong is wrong. That's all I got to say about that.
All right. So yeah, wow. I don't even know where to go from there. You went over so many topics and things that we can explore and dig into and try to figure out the biblical principle versus the world view about it, as far as government is concerned, the war is concerned, as far as religion is concerned, how you brought up some religious and even educational aspect of.
Well, let's go here. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13. Let's go here. It says, okay. Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor or a supreme, or to the governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. Live as people who are free, not using your freedom as a cover-up for evil, but living as servants of God. Honor everyone, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor. Servants, to be subject to your masters with all respect, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the unjust. For this is a gracious thing when, mindful of God, one endures sorrow while suffering unjustly. For what credit is it if, when you sin and are beaten for it, you endure? But if when you do good and suffer for it, you endure. This is a gracious thing in the sight of God. But it goes on and on and on. We can sit there and read this thing, but at the end of the day, we have to be submissive to God. And I think it's one where it says that if the government is not doing right, we have to fall back to the principles of God's way and standards of living. And I think it might be here, but for the sake of time that I know I'm gonna get cut off, I gotta just cut it short. So, but there's a lot that we can chew on here, because right now, if I can quote my brother Paul, he says, "Brethren, I beseech you." There's an urgency that we view the mercies of God right now, but we are in an alert mode. You know, you guys in the army, they say, this is not a drill. This is real. This is real deal, Holyfield. Right now, we are in a state of emergency.
All right, yeah, you're right. You're right. We got to wrap this up. This is
And like it's
been
only 10 minutes
it's been an interesting edition of In the Box.
now.
Folks,
Look,
if you all have any comments, anything that you all want to say about what Paul uh, stated, feel free to write us at inthebox317@gmail.com. Again, that's inthebox317@gmail.com. I am Coach Q. Also, if you have anything to say about what I said, if I said too much or too little, too, hey, let us know. Okay. Inthebox317@gmail.com. I'm Coach Q. That's Paul Bell. Until next time, folks, you all be blessed.